I've created 7 categories to help us find the best plays for week 5 fantasy football. They're boom bust, best matchup, must sit, sleeper, the top rookie play of the week winner, and the Hail Mary play of the week. We'll identify a player from each category to help us make those critical lineup decisions. Let's start with the boom bust player for week 5. This is a player with huge upside but a low floor. Think high risk, high reward, but I'm willing to roll the dice with the hope that he explodes. And for week 5, that's going to be Jameson Williams. It's been a mostly quiet start to the season for Jameson Williams, but this is the week to start him with confidence. He's coming off a season high 30% target share. He was number 1 in the league last week in air yards with 215. That accounted for nearly 70% of the team's total air yards. Now, obviously, most of that didn't connect, but it wasn't for a lack of trying, and that's encouraging. And now he gets a matchup with the Bengals, who are the 3rd easiest matchup for wide receivers this season when adjusting for opponents. They've allowed the 3rd most passing yards and the 5th most passing touchdowns. So lock it in. A Jameson Williams boom week is coming. I think we can also consider Justin Fields against the Cowboys, Garrett Wilson against the Cowboys, and Jahmyr Gibbs against the Bengals as other boom bust candidates for week 5. But let's move on to the best matchup of the week. Plain and simple, this guy has the nuts matchup for week 5. Start him if you got him. And we just mentioned Justin Fields as a boom bust candidate, but he's got a fantastic matchup this week against the Cowboys. He's played 2 full games this season. In those 2 games, he's finished as the QB2 and the QB4. And now he gets a Cowboys defense that has allowed the most passing yards and most passing touchdowns through the first month of the season. They've allowed a minimum of 24 fantasy points to every quarterback they've seen, with Jalen Hurts, Russell Wilson, Caleb Williams, and Jordan Love all finishing as top 5 quarterbacks. Justin Fields will have an easy time passing, but we also know the threat he brings with his legs as well. And guess what? The Cowboys have allowed the 6th most rushing yards to the quarterback position and the 2nd most rushing touchdowns by quarterbacks. Justin Fields is a must play in week 5. Also with great matchups this week, we just mentioned him as well. Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, just play all your Jets this week. Jared Goff against the Bengals as well. Moving on to the must-sit player of the week. This is the player with a terrible matchup and needs to be on your bench if you have other options. I'm looking at A.J. Brown against the Broncos. It's been a really rough year for A.J. Brown. He's wide receiver 49 in fantasy points per game. He's been outside the top 65 wide receivers in 3 of 4 weeks. He did have that wide receiver 4 finish in week 3, but he followed it up with another dud last week against the Bucs. Now he's cryptically tweeting and telling reporters he's unhappy with his role. So maybe we get a squeaky wheel gets the grease type of game, but I'm not counting on it. That's because, for one, the Eagles aren't throwing the ball much at all this year, and they haven't been very good even when they do. They didn't complete a single pass in the second half of last week's game on 11 dropbacks. That is pathetic. And now he gets matched up with possibly the best corner in football, Patrick Surtain. And Surtain seems to shut down just about every wide receiver he sees. And the Broncos as a whole have allowed the 4th fewest fantasy points per game to wide receivers this season. And they've allowed just 1 touchdown catch by a wide receiver. I mean, the vibes are bad. The matchup is bad. The usage is bad. Keep A.J. Brown on your bench this week if you can. I'm also keeping Jerry Jeudy on my bench, going against the Vikings, Evan Ingram against the Eagles, TJ Hawkinson against the Browns, and J.K. Dobbins against the Eagles. Let's get to the sleeper of the week. This is the player flying under the radar. Not many people are starting him, but the stars are aligned for him to have a really good week in week 5. I'm looking at Brenton Strange, the Jaguars tight end. He's at home against the Chiefs. Brenton Strange is he's the only pass catcher in Jacksonville that we can feel good about right now. He actually leads the team in receptions and receiving yards through the first 4 weeks. He has 19 receptions on the season, 12 of those over the last 2 weeks. He's top 10 among tight ends in targets, air yards, receiving yards. He's top 12 in yards per target and top 5 in receptions. Now, he's only tight end 14 in fantasy points per game. But that's due in large part to not having scored a touchdown yet. But those are going to come. He's certainly on the field plenty, and the Jaguars' offense has been pretty good. Strange is one of these tight ends who's just, the true full package. He's an excellent blocker, good receiving skills. He has the athleticism and the size to be a playmaker. And clearly the Jaguars agree with how much they're putting him out there on the field. He's got a full-time role. He's going to continue to be a big part of that offense in week 5 against the Chiefs. This could be a game that ends up in a shootout with the Chiefs offense finally rounding out into shape last week. And the Jaguars, who have scored over 25 points in 3 or 4 games this season, this could be a pretty high-scoring game. I'd be willing to bet that Brenton scores his first touchdown of the season in week 5. Other sleepers I like this week, Sean Tucker against the Seahawks. If Bucky Irving's out, I like Sean Tucker as a play. I still think Rachaad White is the guy based on his pass catching, but Sean Tucker's going to have a role, and he's flashed when he's had opportunities in the past. Elijah Arroyo against the Bucs. Malik Washington could be filling in some of that Tyreek Hill role. He's going against the Panthers. Isaiah Bond with Cedric Tillman out. Isaiah Bond's snaps and routes, they've been going up and up and up throughout the year. Now we're going to know Cedric Tillman in that offense. He's interesting. Sam Darnold against the Bucs. Isaiah Davis filling in behind Braylon Allen. Now backing up Breece Hall. He could have a little bit of standalone value. Like I said earlier, just play your Jets. And in that same vein, I also like Mason Taylor, the Jets tight end. Just play your Jets this week. The Cowboys are that bad. And then Rico Dowdle, if Chuba Hubbard's out, going against the Dolphins, wheels up for Rico Dowdle. And if you want more sleepers, I do a sleeper show live right here on the Yards Per Fantasy YouTube channel every Saturday night with my co-host Sam. We give you 6 sleepers who you can start, plus a bold prediction to cap off the show. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss that. Let's get to the rookie of the week. This is a rookie I expect to outperform expectations in week 5. And I'm looking at you, Woody Marks, against the Ravens. It's been one hell of a victory lap week after touting Woody Marks all summer, and again in 2 separate videos on the channel last week. But this isn't point chasing. Woody Marks has now established a real role in this Texans offense. He has a fantastic matchup to exploit it in week 5. Last week I noted that Woody Marks had seen his snap shares rise from 11% in week 1 to 27% in week 2, then all the way up to 48% in week 3, and it rose again in week 4 as predicted, up to 56%. And that's versus Nick Chubb's 42%. And of course, we saw the results. His big breakout performance, 17 carries, 69 yards, 1 rushing touchdown to go along with 4 catches on 5 targets, 50 yards, and another touchdown in the receiving game. This is his backfield now. And I'm excited to see what happens in a game script that forces the Texans to throw the ball more in comeback mode. Because while Woody Marks looked good as a runner in week 4, the strength of his game is as a pass catcher. Marks was a receiving phenom in college. He set school records for receptions. He caught more than 260 passes during his college career. And last week against the Titans, he ran a route on 63% of C.J. Stroud's dropbacks, and he had an 18% target share. I don't know if he's going to get that pass-friendly game script against the Ravens this week or not. I have no idea. But it's a great matchup either way. The Ravens, they've allowed the most fantasy points per game to the running back position this season. They've also allowed the most receptions to the running backs through the first 4 weeks. So if you listened to me last week and you stashed Woody Marks, or if you scooped him up off waivers this week, put him in your lineup and start him with confidence. I also like other rookies this week. Cam Skattebo against the Saints. Tetaroa McMillan every week. Play him against the Dolphins. fantastic matchup there. Ashton Genty had his big breakout last week. He's got another good matchup this week against the Colts. And Omarion Hampton, same thing against the Commanders. Let's get to the week winner for week 5. This is the guy who is going to absolutely smash this week, put your team on his back, lead you to a victory all by himself. I'm looking at another Houston Texan. How about Nico Collins against the Ravens? I know it's been a frustrating start to the season for Nico Collins drafters, but this is the week, guys. This is the week that he goes off. That's because he gets a Ravens defense that has allowed the 4th most fantasy points and the 2nd most touchdowns to wide receivers this season. Only the Cowboys, Steelers, and Bengals have allowed more passing yards over the first 4 weeks. And that defense has been absolutely obliterated by injuries already, only making them more vulnerable to giving up big plays. And there aren't many wide receivers better at delivering big plays than Nico Collins. I expect he and CJ Stroud to use this opportunity to get back on track, back on the same page, and connect on multiple long throws in this game. Another guy who I think could be a week winner this week, could explode, is Devon Achane against the Panthers. But let's move on to the Hail Mary play of the week. This is a player who is rostered in less than 5% of Yahoo leagues, but can be started if you need that desperation play. I'm looking at Brashard Smith, the 7th round rookie running back for the Chiefs on the road against the Jaguars. I know we talked about Woody Marks earlier. Shall I present to you the next Woody Marks? Like Woody Marks, Brashard Smith is a rookie running back who I really liked as a deep sleeper during the summer. Smith is an ultra-talented player who played just 1 season of running back in college after spending his first 3 as a reserve wide receiver for the Miami Hurricanes. But he looked like a natural when he switched to running back, utilizing his impressive combination of speed, acceleration, and quickness to evade tacklers and break off long runs. He's incredibly explosive. He runs in the 4.3s, and he's excellent in the receiving game. That's just something Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt, they just don't have that at this point in their careers. Pacheco looks completely lost out there, and Kareem Hunt looks like the 45-year-old dad during the family flag football game, just thumping his chest after every 2-yard run. And we've seen Brashard Smith's role grow week over week, just like what we were seeing leading into Woody Marks' breakout. Brashard Smith played 8% of the snaps in week 2, 11% in week 3, and that more than doubled in week 4, up to 26%. And that wasn't just garbage time related. He was getting first quarter touches in that game. Now, he only carried 4 times, but he was also targeted 4 times, catching 3 for 27 yards. But 11.4% target share is very encouraging for what's to come from Brashard Smith. Now, I don't envision Brashard Smith completely taking over this backfield. He's only 194 pounds, but I can see him taking on like a Jerick McKinnon-like role and being a very fantasy-friendly RB3 or flex play in future weeks. What's going to happen in week 5? I'm not sure, to be honest with you. But that's why he's a Hail Mary play and not, in that sleeper. He doesn't quite reach the threshold as a sleeper this week, but he's an excellent Hail Mary play if you need to throw a dart. The Chiefs are on the road against a good offense in the Jaguars. They're getting nothing from the other running backs in that backfield and have this super explosive rookie who they've admitted this week that they need to get more touches. So if you need that dart throw in a deep league, you could do much worse than Brashard Smith. And if you're not starting him this week, you should be stashing him because he is coming. Other Hail Mary plays you could consider for week 5. Alec Pierce sounds like he's going to be back this week against the Raiders. Jalen Tolbert against the Jets. Xavier Scott had an interesting role last week. I think you could maybe throw a dart at him against the Browns. Luke McCaffrey against the Chargers. Going to have no Terry McLaurin or Noah Brown again this week. Throw a dart at Luke McCaffrey. Arondé Gadsden, he's another one of these rookies that we're monitoring, seeing that role increase week over week. If Will Dissly's still out, I like throwing a dart at Arondé Gadsden against the Commanders. Tommy Tremble, we always want to play guys against the Dolphins. Even if they're a Panther, we can play against the Dolphins. Throw a Hail Mary at Tommy Tremble and wrap it up with Parker Washington against the Chiefs. Could be a shootout game. I like Parker Washington. His role is another one that has increased week over week. That's it. Those are our 7 categories. We talked about more than 30 players. I hope something from this video will help you get that W in week 5. And make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. I'll be putting out content like this all season long. And if you want more from me, you can find my rankings, articles, resources, tools, everything you need at yardsperfantasy.com.